We shall see.
Me too.
We're live.
Me too. Hi.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our conversation about Resurrection, starring Ellen Burstyn. Yeah, here we go. You ready?
Oh, I start. That's how the show goes.
I mean, it's always been that way, but
Andy,
I guess it doesn't have to.
Shh, I'm starting now. Shh. Okay. It's okay. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the next reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Resurrection is over. Go carefully, with peace in your heart, with love in your eyes, and with laughter on your tongue. That's where I'm going to stop it, because lemons and lemonade, that the whole line is just, it's too much.
But it's a good line. I actually was like,
line.
I should learn that, and I should just start saying that to random people.
Yes, like at drive-thru. Yeah. When you get your drive-thrus at Sonic,
yeah.
You probably do Sonic.
Up,
yeah. Resurrection, Andy. It's Ellen Burstyn. We're filling a hole in our Ellen Burstyn series, and we get charming Ellen Burstyn in the land of the Dust Bowl as the healer extraordinaire. What do you think?
Well, it's an interesting one, and I like going back to our Ellen Burstyn series. We haven't added anything to this since for quite a long time.
In a while, yeah.
And I mean, Ellen Burstyn is a fantastic actress, and I feel like she is one of those people who I have seen too few of her films, especially in these early days. You know, I feel like the later work I've seen more just because she started popping up in all sorts of things. But I really enjoy what she brings to the table, and this was a film I had never heard of before, so I knew nothing about it. I'm going to be curious to see. I want to hear your story as to how you kind of found it and decided you wanted to build it into our list, because it's a really interesting one, and honestly, I kind of loved it, and so I'm really, really glad that you put it on the list and got me to watch this one.
Well, so I had never seen it either, and that's how it ended up on the list, right? It's like I was cherry picking things that looked like films we should probably have represented, and so the log line of the film: a woman enters the afterlife briefly after a car crash that kills her husband, but she survives and finds herself possessing strange powers. Now, what do you think I thought those strange powers would be?
Well, in the era of superhero movies, I'm sure you thought that she was going to be her own little Captain Marvel, whizzing around in the skies and taking down enemies.
Yeah, that's accurate. I wanted her, and I also wanted her to have like a freeze ray and maybe go invisible. And like that's certainly telepathy or telekinesis is like just a bare minimum. Firestarter, Drew Barrymore could do it. Why not Burstyn?
Yeah.
So. I probably went into this with my expectations a little different. And what I got was a movie that dances around some, religious dogma and expectations and institutions, and puts her at the center of what ends up being a sort of microcultural growing to massive, like a larger cultural debate. And what does this do to this character who claims none of that mantle, right? That's the thing that's interesting about Ellen Burstyn's performance in this movie. And I have to say, going in, just to get it all out on the table, I don't usually do well with movies that dance around religious dogma and stuff like that. Like this could have gone a way that would make this movie deeply unpalatable, but I really don't, like faith healing movies, I don't usually connect with. This movie scared me that it was going to be in that camp. And I think saying that that's what this movie is sells it short and makes it sound much cornier than it is. But so much of what is not corny about it sits squarely on Ellen Burstyn's charisma as a performer in this movie. And so, you know, it's in there that I kind of waffle about my feelings for the film. I expected to kind of love it like you. I expected to love it. I don't hate it. I'm between the two.
Well, it's an interesting one because, you know, in the realm of, I mean, a very small subgenre of faith healing films, I feel like most of them are about hucksters, like Steve Martin in Leap of Faith. It's these people who put on a show in order to kind of like, uh, you know, get money from people, and you
Hmm.
can even go back to films like Elmer Gantry, which isn't necessarily faith healing, but it's the big, Bible thumping revivalist tent sort of stories. And this film, I mean, I was actually curious about that very point after watching this, and I was trying to find some articles or something that talked about when the film came out, like what were the reactions. And in general, this film kind of seemed to avoid blowback about anything religious one way or the other because of how it was constructed, I think. And it's not, there doesn't seem to be any agenda with what she is doing. And it kind of takes this neutral position. And I think, I mean, we're talking about late 70s when everybody was into like there, this is, I mean, post 60s into the 70s, they're still talking about psychic auras and near death
Hmm.
experiences and those photographs that people would take of your soul or your spirit or energy or whatever, all those sorts of things. So it's very new agey, kind of the post hippie sort of thing. And so it's avoiding all of that. And it kind of turns it into something. I mean, some people definitely would say it's a little soap operatic as far as what it's doing, but I think largely the way that I read it is it's it it allows her ability to create miracles to be and to kind of heal to be its own thing. And the point of the film, as far as what I could see, is that none of these people, like, they're all trying to pin their own explanations onto it, whether it's Cal based on his father's religious beliefs and everything, as far as like there's a number of people kind of pushing to get a religious explanation from this, as far as if you're not saying God, then you're the devil sort of thing. You have doctors who are confused by it. You get into science, and all of these people are trying to figure it out and explain it away. And the film refuses to do that. And I think that's, for me, why it ended up succeeding.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. And that's why when, and I want to talk about Cal specifically because I think Cal represents the biggest problem I had with the movie because that becomes I don't know. I was always ahead of Cal, and I don't like processing the character's emotions before they do. Like he felt like a leading indicator for what was coming, and super kind of predictable spiritual fever that he got into. It feels to me underwritten because he's deeply unstable, and his entire sort of gestalt is about escalating quickly. And I recognize that part of that may be the point, but the fact that he doesn't so much fall in love with Edna as he attaches to the meaning that her gift gives him as a human being is I felt the one of the most predictable kind of low hanging fruit characters in the show, and I was just or in the film, and I was just a little bit um, distracted by it. He just didn't seem like a fully developed character, more just blunt instrument than incisive, introspective potential for her to bounce off of. Same thing with her father, really.
Well, yeah, let's stick with Cal for a minute, because I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot to talk about in that relationship as far as these two people, because he is the son of the kind of the crazy religious guy,
Hmm.
as we find out, and I'm blanking on the crazy religious guy's name, but we see him confront her at one of her healings and start kind of going on about, he's the one who says, if you're not even saying God's name, then you're the devil. Cal is there. Cal kind of like walks out and is just like, I don't want to listen to all this, and then talks to her afterward, because he had been healed by her, as you were kind of saying. He had been stabbed in a bar fight, and she kind of healed him. It sounds like enough to get him to the hospital so that he could be actually saved. And from that point, I don't know. I guess I'm curious about this, because I'm a little. I also think that there could be more to the way that their relationship was constructed, but I'm wondering if there is intent there or not. And so it's worth picking out a little bit, because the way that I kind of think that they were trying to do it is less him really ever feeling like he was truly in love with her, and just having this draw to her because it was this I don't know, what was it, like a fascination with the fact that she saved him and brought him back, and he was kind of drawn to this strange energy. I'm not exactly sure, but you're right. He never really does seem like he actually is as in love with her as she seems like maybe she is with him. So what is that in the relationship that kind of keeps him? And because even like he keeps going to many of her healings, and she tells him at one point, she's like, I wish you would stop coming to these, because you always end up this way. You end up like angry, you don't want to talk, and it clearly bothers him seeing her do this sort of stuff. And so I think that's the line. And for me, the way that the film is constructed is she's absolutely a steadfast character in our story. She is one who has her beliefs and keeps practicing them and is changing those around her. And he is our change character as the antagonist of the film. He's the one who ends up changing over the course of it. And it's that perpetual battle he has of, can I really be drawn to this woman, or am I going to fall back to the beliefs of my father, which he does, because he ends up pulling out his Bible and finding obscure passages that he uses against her and decides, this is why I'm going to come after you, sort of thing. And so I don't know, I guess, does that help at all? Does that confuse things?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're describing exactly where I sit with this character. Like it feels like this is what do they call it? It's that is it like survivor attachment, where people who fall in love with their nurses and doctors after they've been saved from a horrible crash, right? Yeah. The paramedic who pulls you out of the car, or the firefighter who pulls you out of the car, you have an immediate attachment to them. That is what I was reading into this relationship, right? She saves Cal just enough, and he develops an attachment that is based on her ability, not her character. And that is maybe that is the underwritten part, that they never say the quiet part out loud. They barely say the quiet part at all. And the quiet part is the part that is deeply non-spiritual, the part that is he's broken because he's misattributing his relationship with her for a spiritual, he's trying to put spiritual labels on it because that's the only grammar he understands. And the film thereby misses the deeply human problem that comes with these sort of survivor attachment disorders. It's sort of maladaptive behavior disorder, and I think the movie is kind of less than for it. It makes it a little bit too easy.
It's interesting because I guess I'm not seeing it as being too easy. In some ways, it feels very 70s, where it's it's definitely of the era where it's not going to give you easy explanations, and it's just putting stuff out there, and we just are kind of reading in whatever it is that we're going to read into it, and maybe that's an element of its era where it's just going to give you enough to kind of take what you will out of what they're giving us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And the bigger complication is that Sam Shepard, I'm a fan, right? I really enjoy Sam Shepard, and I think, again, you talk about charisma on screen, like the guy exudes it. And I also think the character is, for me, I'll call it underwritten. I'll stand by that, but I think your point stands, that he might be underwritten in a distinctly 70s, you're on your own kind of way.
Yeah. I think that might be it. And also, I mean, Sam Shepard is one of those actors who is a close to your chest sort of performer.
Yep.
Where you're not going to get much from him anyway.
Yep.
Right. I mean,
right.
Look at this. Look at Days of Heaven, especially in this era. I mean, we're seeing a very quiet sort of performance. I mean, he's playing a brash kind of small town hooligan sort of character, long-haired, hippie sort of character who's just running around causing problems, fighting in bars, and I think that, yeah, it kind of pushes it pushes at these buttons in his life, because I mean, he is somebody who's grown up with this crazy reverend of a father who, I mean, when Edna first comes to town, she's kind of hanging out with her huge, like the brood, as she said, this huge family of hers that she hardly knows anybody. She's talking to her cousin, played by Lois Smith, who's always great to see, who's kind of filling her in on who everybody is. And she's the one who's like, oh, they moved to town recently. The wife is really nice, but watch out for him because he is this crazy religious reverend guy who's kind of his own kind of spiritual beliefs that he pushes on everybody. Mm-hmm. That's what Cal grows up with. And so it's interesting to think that this is really the first opportunity he's probably had in his life to kind of like think outside of his dad's box.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely. And his dad, again, you talk about characters who just sort of lean into the trope that his dad is the one. And was it surprising? I mean, I part of the area I struggle is that his demand for her was that she acknowledge it was God, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes kind of the father-son unity debate, right? Acknowledge that this power that you have is a gift from God. And that's why they wanted to throw her out, because she wouldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't rationalize that.
Well, in the world of religion, and I think our backgrounds are probably different, because I don't think you grew up going to church. I grew up going to church, and I was never going to like these crazy sorts of churches, but I think that there's something about when you talk to people who have these fervent beliefs, if you're not saying one thing and you're doing something like this, then it seems like a sign that you're on the side of the other, And I mean, it's like The Handmaid's Tale, right?
Yeah.
It's people who pull things from the Bible, and they take these passages and they warp it into something to mean something for themselves. And I think that's what Cal's father does. I think that he is saying, like, you refuse to say that it's God. Therefore, and he pulls some, I can't even remember what quote he pulls from the Bible, but something about how that means the devil is going to come and is going to create these miracles and all this sort of stuff. And I think that's exactly how this mentality operates, is they pull these things out to sell their beliefs and to make it something that they can buy into.
Right. I mean, absolutely true to form. That's what the character certainly does. I think it supports my view of the film that becomes kind of the one note, right, predictable sort of approach from these guys. It is frustratingly binary, and maybe it's because my experience with going to church was in one of those was as an adult, where the doctrine was very like, we go always, we welcome everybody, no judgment, no doctrine, like everybody can stand up and do the thing, and we're very chill. And that church still fell apart when the minister was arrested. Like right? Like it's kind of hard not to see what doctrine inevitably kind of led to. And that's kind of where the movie sort of traps itself. But again, it is around Burstyn, who is decidedly a-religious in this movie, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I mean, I can see your point about how these elements are kind of one-sided, but you can say the same thing about the scientists, right? Each of these different viewpoints that are
Yes.
coming at her are coming from their own worldview, which I think by the nature of this story are going to be binary. But it's not just a battle of the religious beliefs against this. We also have the scientists who are putting her in a lab and trying to figure
Yep.
out, can you bend light and all of this sort of stuff. And they do this healing in front of a crowd that felt very much like the old, 1700s, doctors' labs, where they had the doctor in the center showing all the people how to use cut into
Yeah.
the cadavers and all
We're
that.
about to take out an appendix. That's what it,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Don't
felt
worry about
exactly.
sterile stuff.
That's right. It felt totally like that. And then you also have like the doctors who are perpetually confused about what she's doing. And I mean, it's there's not as much pushback from the doctors. They're usually just scratching their heads like, I have
Yeah.
no explanation for this. Like that's basically all we get from doctors over and over. But I think I think that the story isn't about the binary side of the people who are pushing at her. I think the story is about her and what she's doing and how these different binary things are kind of unable to see past their own simple one-sided beliefs.
Well, and I think that's actually interesting, because you're right. The scientists are head scratching, but that is a decidedly non-binary response. Not understanding something is different from taking a position on something. And I think that is the movie's answer to the binary experience on the religious side. It's, we're going to paint the religious side as doctrinal and the scientific side as dumb. They're not going to be able to figure it out. Right? That's going to be the mystery. And in between the two is going to be this person who also doesn't understand it and doesn't need to.
Yeah. And that's the message of the film. It's like,
Yeah.
these sorts of things happen. Why is there this two-headed snake that is born? No idea.
Why
I mean,
didn't she heal the two-headed snake and make it live forever? Because that would have been dope.
We never see her heal the dog, but I'm sure she did at some
I'm
point.
sure she healed the dog.
Because Clancy certainly gets a little more pep in his
Yeah.
step after he starts hanging out with her. So, but yeah, I mean, it is interesting, like what the story is saying about, like, things happen. Like, these things are out there where you're going to have randomly a two-headed snake is going to be born. It's just like, that's the way the world works. Is there always an explanation? No. And you just have to kind of go with that and everything. And I think that's what for me, made this work, because of how the story is from her perspective, looking at these sorts of things as, you know what, there's really no scientific explanation for this. I mean, we leave the scientific story before it really kind of, it's able to go too much farther. But I mean, it's clear they have no explanation. Every time they see her do something, they're just looking at it like, what the heck? How do we explain this? And that's where we kind of leave them. Same thing with the religious people. Like, no one can really explain it. And she's just like, it's just love. Love is all you need.
That love is all you need.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And
The Beatles had it right.
the punctuation on the end of the film, the fact that she exists for however long the runtime is and isn't able to satisfy anyone's needs except for the people who she heals, and Lois Smith.
70%.
Right, right. And Lois Smith, who I would watch actually in the title role of this film also, because she is wonderful.
She's so cool.
She essentially self-exiles
Yeah.
at the last chance. She takes over and just pumps gas with her dead two-headed snake. What is the movie saying about putting Edna May in the gas station to age out and eventually die?
Well, let's talk about that in a minute. First, let's take a quick break.
Nice tease, Andy.
Yeah. But first, you can find the show on YouTube, and you can join us live when we record. We'll even take your questions in the post-show chit-chat, and members get the full post-show conversation and always know what to listen to next. Subscribe to The Next Reel on YouTube. The link to this episode is in the show notes. We'll be right back.
All right, so what do you think? What does her exile mean to her character path?
I It's funny when Richard Farnsworth shows up early in the film, who I just always love, and he is just great in this small but very memorable role as this guy who owns a gas station called Last Chance Gas. I just loved that. And he is, in the middle of nowhere. He's got this two-headed snake. Their conversation was so kind of like simple and touching, and there was such a connection there that I knew at the end when she drove off that she would end up at that gas station. I didn't realize we were going to cut to like 7 or 8 years later after he had gone off to Machu Picchu and who knows, retired, passed away. We have no idea. But she's kind of taken over the role and is now this crazy haired lady kind of in the middle of nowhere running this gas station. What I love about that is she pulled herself away from all the people who were tugging at her shirt sleeves, trying to get her to say, this is the power of God, say this is to prove that there is some scientific explanation for all of this. She stepped away from all of that and found a place for herself where she could just be and exist. And when the opportunity arises, still use her powers to help those who need it in ways where they may not even know that they had just been cured by a miracle and a miracle worker. And I think that's what I took from it, is she wanted to be in a place where she just wasn't getting all the pushback and all the confrontation all the time from people, and found a place that was that let her be who she was with somebody. I mean, I'm assuming that they spent some time working together, she and is it Esco, and that they kind of create this this safe space for her to do what she needs to do in a simpler, quieter way. That's how I kind of took it.
That the final scene is my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah.
And I like it because it recontextualizes the first time we experience with Esco. First time we meet Esco, he gives her something that she needs to be able to rebuild her life after an absolute tragedy. In a way, maybe he has his own ability, right? Maybe he doesn't take physical illness away from someone, but he certainly has an ability to take grief from someone, to take something that is in the way of this person. This is their last chance to figure out how to heal and grow, whatever. And he does that for her. He does that for her before she goes back to her old family. And somehow she's able to thrive in a way there, in her way there, in spite of many obstacles. And then eventually she runs into some that make her make a change. But what is beautiful about it is she chooses to take that gift and become the last chance for others. And I think that looping mechanism is my favorite thing in the movie. First of all, headcanon, I love Richard Farnsworth having some sort of a superpower. Like, that's amazing, and that needs to be the truth. But the fact that we get her becoming the thing that he was to her for a child, for someone else, for whoever, right? I think that is a lovely, lovely way to cap this movie, and to cap the movie, which otherwise I think is has kind of a, it's not for me. This was not a movie for me, and yet those sequences are absolutely for me. I thought that was just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's hard to disagree with how great those two sequences are. Like, they play so beautifully in the film. I mean, and they're just wonderful little touches that I think speak so much to perhaps the way she takes on her view of the world, right? Like when she's talking to her grandma, Pearl, she says, "Oh, we stopped at this gas station and he had a sign, or there's this sign up that he said," and like clearly she thinks a lot about that sign, about the message, like is God is love and versa versa, I think is,
Yeah.
is what the sign said. And all of those little details that stuck in her head helped kind of create her worldview. And I think that's really what we get out of that whole place. And I think it's interesting to see how much she is touched by it. And then just going back to her father, which is an interesting relationship in our story, because his reaction as they drive away is like, well, that guy was a strange one. You know, like
Yeah.
he is instantly dismissive of any of that connective power that Esco had with Edna.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a movie buried in here that is the the movie that lives up to Burstyn's performance and those relationships, and the rest of the movie, she's better than the movie for me. She is more compelling than the rest of the movie. And
That's so interesting. I don't know.
yeah.
I just find the relationships, everything in this film to be so strong and so everything drew me in. It really worked for me. Can we talk a little bit about her relationship with her dad? Because
Yeah.
it's an interesting relationship. Her dad is always fairly reserved. You know, when we first meet him, it's when she has woken up in the hospital and she is there. And this is Roberts Blossom, who is a great face. I always think of him in Close Encounters. But he is this, you can tell, like, he was never really sure of her and her husband. We haven't really talked about Jeffrey DeMunn, who's kind of a shock to see him as such a young man. I'm used to seeing him in kind of like the Green Mile, Walking Dead era of his career. So it was nice to see him as her husband at the beginning of the film. But Dad already seemed like he wasn't a huge fan of her husband, wasn't a fan that they moved to California. He's trying to say, you know, hey, if you need time, you can come back home, but kind of doesn't seem like he wants her to. and then she says, yeah, I will. And she comes back home and he's kind of okay with it while she needs help. But once she kind of figures out this healing ability and what she can do, and she kind of heals her own legs so that she can start walking again and starts healing people, he instantly has issues with her. And one of the first things he says is like, well, I suppose this means you're going to be leaving soon. Like, he's just really dismissive. And over the course of the story, it's always this push back that he gives her, and seems like, as it comes out later, she had gotten pregnant when she was young and he forced her to have an abortion. And when they did that, it like destroyed her uterus. And so she could never have babies after that. And he's always judged her and thought of her as kind of a harlot. And I don't know, all the way up through the kind of the end where he is dying. I mean, how do you read the relationship in what it's doing for the story here?
Well, it's interesting, and I almost wonder if the movie, I think Cal gets in the way of the relationship with her and her father that is I think has more to say, right? Because she doesn't just have an ability.
You think Cal has more to say, or
no? I think the relationship between her and her father is a richer playground for for deciphering the mysteries of human relationships, particularly father and child. The fact that she can heal bodies, she can take pain, she can heal herself from paralysis, like she can do all this, but she cannot reach the old damage, the old rot that exists in between her father and her. That, I think, is a really compelling vector for approaching the duality of her existence as somebody who has this fantastic ability for others and can't touch themselves, right? This relationship with her dad is like, it's so much more than a story of some supernatural ability. And I find it actually really touching. It near the end, what is he reacting from? Is he reacting from the simple place of, oh, you're not calling what you have a gift from God, so get out? I don't know. He's not. He's reacting from this place of, I don't understand my own child. I've spent a lifetime trying to understand my own child, and nothing that she does or has experienced aligns with my expectation as a father, what I thought I was going to get in my kid. Every turn has been something that I haven't been able to internalize and make normal and rational in my life. And now I'm an old man, and I'm sick, and I'm dying, and I still don't have it. And that is so supremely sad and such rich territory, I think, for the movie. And it's so much more rich than, you better call it God or else you're damned.
Well, all right. I
All right.
well, I already know how you feel about the Cal side of the story.
Right.
Does it change anything for you, the fact that it's not just her that he has issues with? He clearly had, it's clearly a him problem.
Oh,
right?
yeah. A lot of him problems.
Mom had issues with dad because dad would never talk. And so she kind of withdrew herself and kind of like, just became somebody who she wasn't until she finally died. Their son also could feel the push from dad, and that's why he went off to fight in Vietnam and ended up getting killed over there. And now the one that is left, who has been left, I don't know how long ago mom died. I mean, obviously grandma is around, mom's mom, and so there's still a source of love for her there. But with dad, it's just an issue that he's always had with, it seems to be everybody. Does that make it more of a struggle for you when it's not just her that it's a specific issue with?
That sounds like a leading question, Andy. Do you have a problem with that?
No.
What do you think about it?
I think that it speaks a lot about his inability to find ways to deal with people and to communicate with people, and always is pushing against them for, I mean, it was interesting to me to see him as soon as she wasn't needing him anymore. That was when he kind of put the walls up again. It was just like, well, I guess you're leaving again. You don't need me around anymore. It's a very, I don't know the personality type that you'd say, but it's a type of personality that probably dealt with a lot of feeling not needed, and now just feels like, he's hurt again because he's not needed again, and he probably felt that through all of his relationships. And it's interesting because it's not until that final moment between father and daughter when he kind of does need her, and she helps him understand what to expect with the afterlife, which does kind of help him as far as seeing the light and being able to kind of like pass over in a more peaceful sort of way. But I think that's I think just a general fear in his life of people leaving him and people closing themselves off to him. And so he just puts the wall up first. So I don't think it's necessarily a problem. I think it's an interesting element to his character that allows for a richer and more complicated relationship, as opposed to just strictly a father-daughter problem. Like, this is a man who's always had problems and has never been able to figure himself out. Clearly not somebody who ever went to counseling.
No, he never did. BetterHelp.com. Anyway, no, he's, because what does he want, right? What does he want out of it? He strikes me as somebody who just has some deep control issues, and he doesn't seem terribly grandiose. Like, he's not a very big personality. He just seems shut down behind some, you're right, big walls, right? He's super rigid and probably deeply emotionally stunted and inexperienced, and he has organized his entire life around withholding from others. For what? I don't know. I don't know, affection, apology, any sort of softness, or recognition. Like all of that is unavailable. Like Edna comes home with this, by all other words, impossible gift. And yet this old family system is still there waiting for her. It is unresolved family trauma. And that's, I mean, from a narrative perspective, it's why the dad relationship is so useful, because it is something absolutely relatable in family systems. Like it's, you know, you don't have to go very far to find somebody who has somebody in their family who has some of these traits. It is relatable. Reunions are tough. And so he stands out as a non-metaphysical kind of, signpost in this movie. That relationship, as confusing as it is because of who he is, wow, is it grounded in a family dynamic that I think a lot of people relate to.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he does still. I mean, I couldn't quite get a sense of the scope of their property, but it seems like he still lives there with his deceased wife's mother, Pearl, Eva Le Gallienne, I think is how you say her last name.
Weird relationship.
Well, it just seems like, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming grandma just lives there because she's older and he's taking care of her. But it doesn't seem like there's any closeness there either, right? I mean, we don't see them being like pushing back against each other at all. It just seems like they live together. That's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, we don't see them in concert either.
Right. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's literally like no connective tissue between them at all, which is fascinating. And so it plays in a very interesting way where it just seems like small town mentality where things are just going to go on as they always have, and there's not going to be any pushback against it. And Edna changes all of that because she creates such a whirlwind of change everywhere she goes with all these healings that she's doing. And I think that throws Dad into a place where he doesn't understand it, but also she's clearly so much more than he is. But it's interesting because the real issue that ends up driving them apart again is the fact that she is with Cal.
Yeah.
And he views that again as she's living in sin. He doesn't say living in sin, but he's just like, he's assuming that it's going to lead to where she was before, where she ended up pregnant and all of that, and views her in such a diminishing way of to the point of belittling her because she's just having a relationship. I'm guessing outside of marriage. I'm not exactly sure even what his gripe is, but especially because it seems like she and Cal had been together for a while. Like, I don't know how much time has passed, but clearly time is passing. I mean, we get to a point where she's walking around without even a cane. So
yeah. Oh, time passed. Yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah. I hope it's not that simple. That would be, I think, maybe disappointing that he's just grumpy because they're together out of wedlock.
Well, how do you read that? How do you read it? Like, or is it just bringing back the feelings that he had when she did get pregnant?
Yeah, I think so. I kind of believe that's where his head and his heart are,
Yeah.
That it's trauma he's never been able to let go, because I mean, that's all he is. He's just a raw nerve of calcified experiences that he doesn't understand. And any reminder of those things just bring up, scratch old wounds.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting that when she does that final like big healing in front of the scientists, where she heals somebody who has some sort of a palsy or something, dystonia, I guess is what it is. It really puts her out where she's actually like in a hospital bed unconscious for several days, at which time the only other miraculous thing that is in our story that it doesn't relate to healing happens, but she sees that her father is dying. How do you read that?
Is that oh man, I didn't really pull that apart as I was thinking about the film. I guess I'd let go of the thread before I got back to that. Is that a part of her ability to finally attach to him? Is that her ability to say, look, I can finally get through old family system trauma and see our shared pain? I don't know. How do you read it?
I'm not sure either. It was a very interesting and a kind of surprising moment where I guess the way that I interpreted it is we know that she is somebody who has danced with the afterlife. She's gone into this this place, visually shot really interestingly, where it's kind of dark with kind of light shooting through kind of a smoky thing directly at us, with figures from her past all there, in a sense, kind of welcoming her to the afterlife is kind of what it plays as. Like, she sees these people that she last saw when she was 2.5 years old, as her grandma tells her. Like, there's no way you would remember those people. The way that I read it is simply that she sees her father in that space as if he's just about to cross over. And because of the timing of having done that healing that put her back into essentially, I guess, a near-death coma where she kind of goes back into that afterlife space, that's why she kind of is in a place where she kind of like connects with her father's soul that is close to going there at that point. I don't know. I guess that's kind of how I read it.
And that's where, I mean, this is definitely speaking, using the vernacular of 70s near-death experience, kind of parapsychology. And, you know, it's interesting, and I'm not a student of near-death experiences. You know, I've only done sort of cursory interviews with folks over the years, but it's interesting, or it would be interesting, I think, to look at the interpretation of this movie now after, 40 plus years of people writing about near-death experiences, and how well the film captures what could be interpreted as a modern look at, what people experience. It still feels super 70s to me. The sort of the visual language of the light. And so I don't know.
It's a little different than Carol Ann's light, I guess.
Yeah. Right?
Either way.
Yeah. This isn't a gooey light. Right. Carol Ann's light was gooey. Had more of a residue. Yeah,
there's a little more to it. Well, it is a really fascinating film. I don't know. I think it's saying a lot, but I think it's doing it in a fairly simple way, where it's not, again, I appreciated that it wasn't pushing to try finding a way to kind of explain it all away. It just made it something that, again, as she says, God is love, and versa versa. So it's like God is love, love is God. And that's essentially the extent of her belief. It's just like, this is just something that I can do now, and I'm just going to do it because I want to help people. And that's kind of it. And I think that by putting that message out there, it was actually just it made for a story that allowed it to sidestep all of the pushback from the kind of the religious fervor viewpoints of it. And I think that's what I appreciated about it so much. So yeah. For me, it worked. It played really well.
Yeah, I get it. And this is, I think this is it's hard to write a review about a movie that I feel so sort of just straight down the middle on. And the bottom line is, I find Ellen Burstyn fantastic. I just like her so much. And I struggle with so many of the little pieces that orbit her. But the pieces that stand out, Ellen Burstyn, the last chance model, and her relationship with her dad, exploring family grief, I think really stand out and make this movie more than what it could have been. And it didn't end with her having a tumor that's changing her brain. I mean, it could have been John Travolta phenomenon all the way down.
Did you think when she got shot that the powers were going to go away?
Yeah, of course. I'm glad they
seems,
didn't.
It seems to be kind of a trope in this sort of
Yeah.
story where, something happens to you again and, oh, now they're gone.
Yeah.
I had
Got a
my
bonk
time.
on a head, you can fly. Get
Yeah.
hit again. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I was a little worried about that. So I'm glad.
Yep.
I really, as you said, I mean, it ended in the absolutely most perfect way possible. Like I could not get enough of that ending. It was so good.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
What do you know about our director, Daniel Petrie? Is he a director you're familiar with very much?
No,
I'll
I am
admit-
not a student of Petrie.
Let's dish on Petrie, Pete. This is called the
you?
Petrie dish.
Did you do that just now?
I'm
Out
the
loud?
one who would.
Like
Yeah.
recorded?
This is the first. No, I've seen Cocoon: The Return. I've seen that, but I've never seen any other. I've heard of plenty of films that Petrie has directed. Directing career in film from 1960 to 1997, and then with TV before that, starting in 1950, all the way up through the 2000s. So
Let's just say an extraordinary filmography.
Yeah. Sybil is probably the other film that is a TV movie that I'm most familiar with. That was
Yes.
one my mom watched a lot. I don't know. She seemed obsessed with it. And maybe is why I think of her, have a connection between my mom and Sally Field because she's just that movie. I think she really, really liked it.
I agree with that. My parents were, or I should say my dad in particular was a Marcus Welby MD fan.
Oh, okay.
And so I know that was, but this was all of the films, even like films that I've seen, like Raisin in the Sun, his 1961 Raisin in the Sun. I was not tracking at the time I saw that Daniel Petrie as the director. Like I was not retaining what he was doing as a filmmaker when I saw that film. So this is effectively my first.
Yeah, I'm very unfamiliar with almost all of his career. So certainly somebody I'm curious about, though. I know a Lifeguard has kind of gotten a little bit of buzz lately with some re-releases and stuff. So and as you said, Raised in the Sun. So I mean, I'm curious to check out more, but I know very little about Petrie. So
yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as how it was shot or anything? Production design?
Well, I'm actually, so much of the film takes place in this was Texas standing in for Kansas. And, these are my people, Andy. I go to reunions and I go to places like this.
It feels like this, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're Oklahoma, it feels so you have that same sort of
There's a vibe.
Yeah.
So I'm actually curious how well you thought this captured it. I will tell you from my experience as a child, running around in places like this, getting wet in things called a crick, swinging on tire swings, catching crawdads. Like this is what these experiences looked like. This felt very home turf to me, captured well.
Well, and same with me. Mine was a mountain town.
Oh
but,
yeah. Same
but
vibe,
still,
though.
It was same vibe. These
Less oxygen.
Huge gatherings, less oxygen, stronger lungs. But these big gatherings of all sorts of family and friends that we would often have, and just kind of that vibe of the little town gossip and all of that sort of stuff was very much the same sort of thing. So I loved the feel of this whole thing. I really kind of bought into this world, and I think that it was fantastic. I really, of all of it though, again, going back to that gas station, I don't know where that gas station was. I don't know if it was also in Texas, but it was just a fantastic little location that they had. It felt very Southwest.
I mean, it feels like they would not have built that. Today they would have built that.
It felt real. It felt like a great little place. So
today it would be in the volume.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of solid texture here that I think Petrie and team captured. I thought it was solid.
Yeah. Yeah. The look, the production design, everything worked really well. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move into the back half. But first, let's take a quick break.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Tsabutan, Vyacheslav Draganov, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at d-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show and our full archive at truestory.fm. You can follow us from there too. Plus, you can find out how to become a member and go further with every episode. Check out our merch store at thenextreel.com/merch. And if your app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. All right, sequels and remakes, Andy. Have you digested it all?
I was actually kind of surprised about this, but I mean, I guess I wasn't surprised about the fact that there was a novelization made.
Okay.
No surprise there. But there was a TV movie remake of this, 1999, directed by Stephen Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal, we know about his children. Dana Delaney was the star of that one. I didn't see that one. Did you?
No, Dana Delaney. Which one was she? ER.
Wasn't she the China Beach? Isn't that her?
Was she China Beach? What was her? She had a big show. She was China Beach. She did do China Beach, wasn't she? Was that her big show?
I thought that was her big show. She was also in Desperate Housewives.
True.
But China Beach was the one that she was like one of the leads in.
Wow. I don't think I never watched China Beach, and I thought I knew her from something else. Oh well.
Yeah, China Beach, 62 episodes she was in. So, I mean, that was kind of her show. Wow. She was also Lois Lane in Superman the Animated Series. Maybe
44 episodes sounds like her show too.
Yeah. So
I
anyway.
could have sworn. I just could have sworn she was on a medical show. I guess not.
I don't know.
Medical or a law show. I don't know. Was China Beach one of those? Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
It was a medical show. Weren't they all doctors?
I never watched it. I don't know. In fact, you're telling me China Beach. It feels like I've never even heard of it.
They're set in an evacuation hospital during the Vietnam War.
No idea.
Yeah. So it was a medical show. So look at you. You knew it and you didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Okay. 61 episodes. Okay. Well, there you go. What else do we have to talk about? How to do it award season.
Did okay for herself. 3 wins with 9 other nominations. At the Oscars, Ellen Burstyn was nominated for Best Actress, but lost to Sissy Spacek in Coal Miner's Daughter. And Eva Le Gallienne was nominated for Best Supporting Actress as Grandma Pearl, but lost to Mary Steenburgen in Melvin and Howard. At the Saturn Awards, nice to see that this caught the attention of the Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Awards. Ellen Burstyn was nominated for Best Actress, but lost to Angie Dickinson in Dressed to Kill. Again, Eva Le Gallienne was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but lost to Eve Brent in Fade to Black. It was nominated for Best Writing, but lost to The Ninth Configuration, and Best Music, but lost to Somewhere in Time. At the Ivoriaz Fantastic Film Festival, it won the Special Jury Award and was nominated for the Grand Prize, but lost to The Elephant Man. Burstyn again was nominated at the Golden Globes for Best Actress in a Drama, but lost to Mary Tyler Moore in Ordinary People. At the National Board of Review, Eva Le Gallienne won Best Supporting Actress, and it was put into the top 10 films of the year. Last but not least, at the New York Film Critics Circle Awards, again, Eva Le Gallienne nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but lost again to Mary Steenburgen in Melvin and Howard. So, yeah, it had a good run. A lot of
it had attention. Yeah.
It did have attention, indeed.
Did that attention lead to anything good at the box office? Everything I've read about how this movie was released is that it was a confused release. How'd it do?
Well, for Petrie's drama fantasy, he had a budget of $6 million or $23 million in today's dollars. The movie opened September 26, 1980, opposite In God We Trust or Gimme That Primetime Religion and the limited release of Gloria. The film landed in 3rd place at the box office. It could never quite find its audience, though, only earning back $3.9 million at the box office. $15 million in today's dollars. That unfortunately lands the film with an adjusted loss per finished minute of almost $78,000. Too bad for this one, but at least it was recognized with some nominations and liked by the critics. What did you see? What did you see as far as its release, though?
Well, that it was initially released, they thought this is definitely going to be a Bible Belt movie, and it turns out the Bible Belt did not show up for this movie. So they said,
an
okay, wait a minute.
push.
Now it's going to be an indie prestige film. Let's open it in L.A. and New York and try and get people to show up as a different kind of film. And it sounds like by then it was just too late. Like it just missed its own window. And I think it highlights how hard it is to categorize this film and make it something that you can just say, oh, go see this movie because it's a movie about what?
Yeah. It's interesting that this was still the era where they would say, let's open in the Bible Belt first. And then no longer do you have like those localized releases, stuff like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it struggled. And I think, what you see in the box office is exactly the result of not understanding what this film is, and that it definitely has filmmakers and a cast with things to say, and it really struggled to figure out how to connect. So,
did you watch the trailer? I didn't look at the trailer. I'm curious if it's one of those projects that also just had a trailer that didn't know how to sell it.
Yeah, I did not watch the trailer, but I same thing. I'm fascinated to see what was the pitch they were making. I wonder, did the trailer change when they changed strategies too?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, I mean, the critics did seem to like it, so it's not like the critics were able to sell audiences on it either. So, oh well. Well, I really loved it. I had a great time with it. I loved the story. I loved the characters. I loved the journey. And for me, it was a great addition to this series. So even if it wasn't something that struck you quite as well, I'm glad that you added it to our list.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. It's not the ideology of the film. It's not a film for me, but I have a lot that I appreciate about what was going on in it and the performances. And so I'm glad it's on the list too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that is it for our conversation about Resurrection. Next week, we return to our Zhang Yimou series for more entries, starting with his 1994 film To Live, an epic family drama following a Chinese family across decades of turbulent history, from Civil War through the Cultural Revolution. And now, let's do our ratings.
Letterboxd.com/The Next Reel. That's our HQ page. That's where you can find all of the reviews of all the films that we talk about across the Next Reel family of film shows. Andy, what are you going to do?
As I said, I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it 4 stars and a heart. It was just something that really struck a nerve with me, and it's something that I will probably be thinking about a lot. So,
it's middle of the road for me. I'm going to give it 3 stars. I'm probably not going to return to it, even though I'm glad I saw it. I'm not going to give it a heart this time because you gave it a heart, so I don't need to.
Okay, that's how our hearts work.
Today it is.
Yes, that's right. 3.5 is where this is going to land on our chart with a heart. You can find the show on Letterboxd at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and Pete at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Resurrection? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins. All right. Letterboxd.
I haven't even started finding one. I'm tardy.
Well, I haven't either. I know.
I haven't even searched.
We both are terrible at remembering this. I have a feeling this is going to be one where it's just a lot of serious reviews.
I know.
Let's see.
Somebody have some fun. Oh, okay. Okay. I could do one.
Okay, you got one?
Yeah, I think so.
What? Was there a post-credit scene?
I did not stick around that long.
I played through the credits. I'm trying to remember if I saw something pop up. Huh. Ugh, I'm not seeing anything I like. All right, I'll do this one.
Well, I turned the page. Let me go back to the one that okay. Letterbox giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
I went a little bit lower. Where'd you decide to land?
I also went lower. I'm at 2.5.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then I can guarantee we're not doing the same one. Why don't you go first?
I've got 2.5 by Jerry Downey, who says, putting aside that his character is a crazy a-hole, this is some peak Sam Shepard hotness happening here.
I really like that one. Okay, I've got Spaghetti Noir's two-star. After surviving the insane car accident that killed her husband, Ellen Burstyn discovers she has healing powers and starts laying hands all over her religious Texas town. The film becomes a tonal mess as Burstyn, her family, and the community grapple with this new power. Is it a gift from God, the devil, or something else? Unfortunately, Resurrection can't quite decide what it wants. It constantly feels like it was written to be much darker, possibly boiling over into horror, but never commits, even as it races toward a somewhat downbeat ending. Worth checking out for the afterlife scenes. Think 2001 meets Insidious, and a brief appearance from Richard Farnsworth and his two-headed snake. Andy, Resurrection, first of all, Resurrection is a horror movie. You look at that poster of Ellen Burstyn's sweet face, and you think, horror movie? I don't. I didn't see that coming. But now that it's been planted in your head, can you see Resurrection, the horror movie?
That's really funny. It's a surprising read of it.
Right?
I feel like I've seen a horror movie dealing with somebody who goes into the afterlife, but I don't know. That's funny.
Is it a Stephen King movie?
Oh, I don't know, probably.
I don't know. There's something about a movie where everybody she lays hands on, she curses and she doesn't even know it, and their lives fall apart in really awful ways. I don't know. I'm just saying it's out there. I would watch Resurrection, the horror movie. That may be what I needed all along.
Stephen King story. The revival, I'm pretty sure is. That's really funny. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Letterboxd.
Which one was yours again? I'm trying to find it.
Spaghetti Noir, 2 stars.
Right there. Okay.
Yeah, I went. Skim the cream right off the top, Andy.
That's right.
All right, questions.
All right, hold on. I just need to do this real quick. All right. Post-show chit-chat. Let's dive in. Agrimorphy saw this on HBO years ago and found it quite memorable, especially was charmed by Burstyn's performance. Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic in it. Wonder if the film would have been more publicly notorious if it leaned harder on the spiritual bait that was, quote, too easy. I mean, it seems like you think so, Pete.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's an approachable film. If you saw it, I think you get it.
Yeah. Burstyn was a longtime member of the Actors Studio, later director and co-president, and a pupil of Lee Strasberg. Do you see any influence of the method on her performance or the movie's style? It's weird. I always think about that with Ellen Burstyn now after having watched her on in the Actors Studio where she's talking about all of that. But I'm always thinking about that now as far as like her method and her process. Like I really thought about that a lot when she was paralyzed and she was trying to walk and trying to move her feet. I didn't think of it so much after that point, but that part I had it in my head quite a bit because I'm like thinking about how she was processing the inability to walk as she was performing that. So I don't know. I don't know if I ever actually see somebody's method in their performance, but I do think about that with her.
You know what's the most method is when she tries to stand up and falls flat on her face. So method. She hits the ground hard. I mean, so much of what the method, the Strasberg method is about interiority, right? I mean, it's about becoming, performing this character inside and out. So she's not performing a miracle worker. She's a woman trying to understand what is going on with her body and her grief and her relationship to other people's needs and those. I think, I think about that too with Burstyn, and I certainly don't think the movie is performing method, but I do think she is. There's lineage to who she is as an actor, and how she's able to be warm and funny and practical and also confused and in pain, and all of that comes from that training.
Yeah. Just her reaction to Farnsworth when he's first talking to her, that was so touching. So, who would you have given the Best Actress award to for this year, and why? All right, Pete, you ready?
Yeah.
And the nominees for Best Actress in a Leading Role: 1980, Sissy Spacek, Coal Miner's Daughter; Ellen Burstyn, Resurrection; Goldie Hawn, Private Benjamin; Mary Tyler Moore, Ordinary People; Gina Rowlands, Gloria. It's a good lineup.
It is a good lineup. All due respect to Ellen Burstyn, I don't think she would. I don't think after seeing this movie that I would keep her, or that I would give her. She's not an embarrassing nomination at all. Like, she's fantastic, and she's definitely the reason I think that this movie has real human spark to it. Probably still Sissy Spacek, even though I like Mary Tyler Moore so much in Ordinary People.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Mary Tyler Moore is so good in Ordinary People. I kind of would almost favor her. I mean, I liked Sissy Spacek a lot in Coal Miner's Daughter, and she's obviously it's a much bigger and broader performance than Ordinary People. It's just Mary Tyler Moore is so different in that. Between those three, I mean, also Gina Rowlands and Gloria, she was great there. Goldie Hawn was a lot of fun in Private Benjamin. I don't know. That's the one that for me is like, I don't know if I would put it on the Oscar list, but I don't know. I lean toward Mary Tyler Moore on the list, but I wouldn't dismiss Ellen Burstyn. I thought she was really strong in the role.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think Edna actually has supernatural powers? That's an interesting thing, because I did see somebody's review that said you could read this as an operating table fever dream.
Yep.
Which I didn't think so at all. I don't feel like this film ever sets up like this could all potentially be a Jacob's Ladder story.
Yeah.
It just didn't ring that way to me, but clearly some people see it that way. I don't know. Where do you stand?
Well, it also never returns to it, right? There's no punchline at the end. Even if you buy it after the crash, that they could recontextualize the movie with just a little coda that says, oh, by the way, oh my gosh, I had a dream that we were actually owners of a bed and breakfast in New England. And
wow.
That would have been a choice. I'm kind of glad they didn't. Does she have supernatural powers? Yeah. I think she can heal people.
I think that's exactly it. Any thoughts on the production design? How does it assist with characterization of story? We talked about that a little bit as far as how it fits.
The look of it.
Have you seen any of Daniel Petre's? We talked about him and how little we know about him, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
We talked about the Bible Belt openings. Why do you think it didn't attract the Bible Belt audience?
Well,
were they too much in the mind of Cal?
Yeah, they're probably all. It's just presenting this movie to a bunch of cows, and it's confusing. The movie has a confusing ideology, right? Like that's not the movie that they may have expected to see. Um, Harder to appreciate a movie that doesn't have a hard stance on these things, and this movie does not present a stance. It presents many stances.
There was a quote from somebody at the time from Spirituality and Practice who wrote this: Resurrection is a very timely film in that it deals with health, sickness, healers, religious and non religious, and the interest science has in this whole phenomenon. On a purely emotional level, this film forces viewers to come to terms with their feelings about death, love, community, spirituality, and self repair. I don't know if that ever gets to the issue about the religious views, but I do think that it points to the fact that I think people thought the film was going to take on kind of the religious thing, and maybe that's what the Bible Belt people wanted to see.
Yeah.
And the fact that it really is just a story about, internal and kind of dealing with your own feelings, that it just wasn't, it was too much of a self-help movie. I don't know.
The Ellen Burstyn self-help movie.
That's right. What did you think of the opening car crash scene and how it was filmed?
I don't I don't think it's like I guess it's more effective as a narrative break, as a narrative shock, right? We're in a very different place. Everybody's having a good time, and we have a shocking moment. And then it strikes me as a very 70s and 80s, we're going to just throw a car off a cliff and ADR some screams. It wasn't, this was how we filmed these kinds of things. It didn't do anything particularly new or shocking. We just needed one drive, one ridiculous little swerve in his tiny little Triumph, and now Edna's life is cleaved in half. That's what we needed to have happen. So,
well, we do get 70s idiot children running into the middle of a freeway.
True.
Like, what is this kid doing? My God. I will say the thing that I did find interesting with it is that it has those cuts to what I was thinking of Shattered, which we covered on the film. Or on the show, where it cuts to just kind of a view of a window kind of shattering in blackness, and we cut to that a few times. I thought that was actually an interesting way to kind of depict that. So it wasn't just strictly the late 70s drive a car off a cliff to show the accident sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
What, if anything, does the movie have to say about faith? I feel like we talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Anything else with that, or
I don't.
Any thoughts on Sam Shepard's casting? Is he too hot for his part? Clearly, people on Letterboxd also think so. Who else could have acted his part? That's so funny.
Oh, geez, who else could have played Sam?
Is he too hot? Like, I don't know. I don't. Maybe I'm one of those people. I'm not necessarily sure. I think Sam Shepard's all that hot, but
Andy,
I don't know.
The nerve.
I know.
Who I'm of course. Who's our favorite?
How about Sam Elliott at this time? He was also he was in Daniel Petrie's Lifeguard.
Oh, good. Yeah. So definitely a young Sam Elliott. Absolutely Roy Scheider.
Oh, right.
I don't know why that should be name number one.
Should be. Oh, too funny. Is Resurrection the right title for this movie? What would have been your alternative? We didn't really talk about that. The idea of resurrection and the biblical resurrection of Jesus, which is kind of what Cal is kind of pushing.
Yeah.
And initially it was titled The Resurrection, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is that the makes for a jarring tonal change, doesn't it?
It does. That one really pushes the religious angle.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Resurrection. I actually like Resurrection as a title of the movie because it implies so much more than just coming back from the dead, right? Like so many people in this movie have their lives and livelihoods resurrected as a result of their orbit of her. And and I think that's that speaks to me as a title. So I actually don't have a problem with the title.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
even
like
better as a horror movie. Again, I'm going to stay on that.
Would you say Burstyn is the auteur of the movie or someone else? I mean, it's hard for me to say regarding Daniel Petrie being an auteur because, again, I just haven't seen enough of his work to be able to speak to that. It certainly sounds like she put a lot of thought and worked with the writer on coming up with the healing angle as far as like doing research into healing groups
And near-death experiences.
And yeah, and she really kind of put a lot of thought into all of that and helped the writing. So maybe this was something that was more her story than even Petrie's. I can't speak to that. That's funny. According to IMDb trivia, this is going back to the car crash. The car crash scene was reused for a 1985 episode of Murder, She Wrote. Of course it was.
Oh my God. Can you see it? I think they probably used it in the trailer for Murder, She Wrote, like for the show.
Well, it speaks to moments like this that play well that they're just like, let's just buy that, use it again. Like Star Trek using that ship explosion multiple times.
Yeah, for sure.
Letterboxd lists this as a drama fantasy. Would you call it a fantasy? And what are some of its fantasy elements? I mean, it's a totally fantasy because I mean somebody's healing people. It's super. Yeah. It's a superhero movie. What do you think of the movie's sentimentality? Does it seem like an early Lifetime movie in tone at all?
Well, it didn't until you said that, and now it does. It's amazing how quickly it just fits hand to glove.
I don't know. I loved it. I liked it for what it was doing. So
yeah.
What do you think of the Americana parts of the movie? Are they effective, distracting, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about setting and cultural stuff. I think I found it effective.
Yeah, I think so. Would you describe this movie as feminist? I'd describe it as humanist, I think.
Yeah, I'd probably stick to humanist. I like that. I like that as an approach.
This was, I guess, the tagline for the film. It's not supposed to happen. Be there when it does.
Wow.
What?
That's nonsense.
They were still learning.
I think if we were wondering why the movie didn't get attention in the box office, I think we found evidence.
Oh man, that is terrible.
Okay, right. So what tagline would you give this movie?
I don't know. Agromorphes is, does heaven exist? Like, it's a tough one. Like, what do you do with the tagline with this?
Well, if it's a horror movie, are you ready? I've got one.
Oh, good.
Death let her go. The living would not. Right? It's good, right?
Okay. Look at you. Look at you. All right. I guess Ellen Burstyn had the initial idea to make it a thriller. That's interesting. No, she rejected that idea. I don't know. Probably smartly. I think that, I don't know. Maybe that does push more toward her being more of the auteur of the film.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. A lot of fun talking about this one. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we will be back next week to take on more Zhang Yimou.
Oh, Zhang Yimou.
I know. You've already watched this one. You're like so far ahead in all your watching.
The only thing I have left for the whole season is Gun Crazy.
I don't know how you can watch stuff so far ahead and remember everything that you need to talk about with it. So
I've already made all my notes.
Kudos to you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. I accidentally pushed the button that